going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk, current events, culture, movies, of course. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
I hope everyone is keeping cool because it is freaking hot here. What is it? So hot that there actually a small brush fire broke out close to where I live.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was a small brush fire. What is it? Yeah, just off the 118 at DeSoto.
Oh shit! That's it's really close.
Yeah, it's like it was like right in the Brown Canyon kind of area, like right when you get the off ramp for DeSoto.
Yep. I know exactly where that is. Hopefully, it doesn't be getting to work tomorrow because that's my exit.
Right. No. It was a small fire, and it was contained quickly. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and it was pretty close pretty close by to this new housing development in the hills. So. No structures were harmed or put in danger.
That's no one had to evacuate. It was contained pretty quickly because those things can really roar out of control pretty quick.
Yeah, but I guess seeing the silver lining and things. I guess it was kind of good that we had a dry winter because if we had a particularly wet winter, then those hills would have been like full of grass that would have withered at the beginning of the summer and just been fuel for that fire and potentially gotten out of hand.
So it worked out. That's good.
Precisely. So I know we complain that we don't get enough rain down here or whatever, but in this case, it might have helped.
I'll take it.
Especially since what is it? As a kid, I don't remember a lot of brush fires in the hills, and it's not as though there are. I'm sorry, for some reason I can't speak today, but it's not as though that a lot has changed. I mean, maybe a few more houses up in the hills, but other than that, not really. Except for they did get rid. It's interesting. People complain about being hot and everything, but one of the things that would keep things cool is water, and in the valley we got rid of a lot of our local water sources like creeks and streams and reservoirs.
Another factor people don't think of, it's just like it's one. If there's all these things that people is like, why is it so climate change? Like, no, it's there's so many other factors that you guys aren't thinking of.
So right. Yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about this last Thursday, I believe it was, when we met up. And I was just thinking about the whole, I was remembering discussions I had with people who immediately went to climate change and because of the number of wildfires. Basically we have wildfires every single year now. It's just not even a question. It's if they're gonna happen, it's when they're gonna happen. And they immediately go to climate change and whatever. And I was just thinking about my responses to them. But being the constant perfectionist that I am, I'm always trying to work out my my talking points or my debate strategy. And I was just thinking about it, and it just and it just hit me. It's it's like staring us plain in the face. The government admits to weather manipulation. It's not even a question anymore. They fully admit to it. Cloud seeding or if you see those like the chemtrails, contrails, in the skies, that's a deliberate. I mean, I think I forget where I read it, but I do believe I read that that's like a deliberate attempt to like kind of reflect some of the sun's light. Try to cool down the temperature. Bring down the temperature a bit.
It's funny. You're a movie we haven't discussed yet on our live stream or anything, but that's kind of the whole premise of the start of Snowpiercer.
Right. No. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's like,
watching, I was like, are you like, really? And I was like, wow, I did not expect this to be like.
Right. I mean, and not even least of which of like when when people when they try to develop a piece of land and maybe like it's like a wetland or there's some sort of like there's some sort of water like people dry it up and so that they could like properly develop the ground. But again, that water is there for a reason. And so I'm like starting to think about it, and it's like a way to kind of soften people to like people of our persuasion point of view is to kind of give a little bit on that man-made climate change talking point where it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, yeah, because the government's been admitting to that they've been messing with the with the weather for years.
So whether it's just from attempting it or if they've actually succeeded, who knows.
Right, exactly, because because anyone who goes immediately to like man-made climate change, they always the thinking is always like pollution or some sort of uh, what's the word, like secondary effect of human life.
Right.
Whether that's like trash or just pollution from like cars and like petroleum products and things like that. So like they'll always go to that, but what I just realized is like it's like the government, they admit that they mess with the climate, that that they are creating man-made climate change, and so it's, I think, a way to what was that?
It's like it kind of like it throws them off. It throws these people off. It's like, because you're not like being like, well, you're wrong, and like it's like that a lot of times, like there's no reason to get upset because there's actually things that like we probably agree with a lot of these people, but like they're so ensconced in the manipulation from what the media is telling them or like what the blue check marks on Twitter are telling them. So they get caught up in this fervor, and it's like we don't need to be like that. Why create more chaos? It's like you just kind of do your kind of
like debate judo or Jedi mind tricks. It's
exactly.
like, yes, you're right. There is, yeah. Like, this isn't the climate change you're looking for. Yeah. But also another theory that could possibly explain at least the brush fire that we had here in Chatsworth is that homelessness. There could have been an encampment right there, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
Well, I know, like, because where I live, the the Sepulveda Basin area, like, that has essentially become, that whole area has pretty much become a homeless encampment. And I remember, like, driving home one day, I was like, what the fuck is going on over there? And all of a sudden, it's like this giant fire that like started over there. And it was the homeless encampment that went up in flames. Right. And it's like and I, like I said, I feel bad for that, but that it's the stuff like that happens. And this is a problem of where, let's just let people live in their filth. It's okay. And this is one of the potential consequences of that.
right. I mean, because what is it like 2 years ago? Where there was a particularly nasty fire, caused by um, this, a sanitation worker who, you know, for some reason, like the load in his truck caught on fire, and he decided to like dump it out. And then it was like a particularly windy day, and so like that fire is, yeah, he fucked
Yeah.
up, and so the fires began to spread. And I remember there was me and a group of friends used to go running around in that area, the Sepulveda Basin area, and a small fire had broken out, and I remember the local news broadcasters or the news anchors, they were speculating. It's like, oh, could maybe an ember from that fire that was happening, like, admittedly, yes, in the Southern California area, but it was like at least like 80 miles away, right? And so they were speculating like, oh, maybe an ember from that fire, got caught up in like an updraft and was like, kind of suspended there, and it came down in this spot in the Sepulveda Basin. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And it's like, and then where that fire broke out is, I knew that there was a homeless encampment there because I ran in that area with a bunch of people, and I remember one time at night I was running past this one spot, on this jogging trail, and there was all this smoke billowing up, and I kind of like looked over like into the hedge a little bit, and yeah, there was a homeless encampment right there. They were like cooking their dinner out in the open.
Yeah.
So, so when I heard. So when I heard like those, news anchors saying like, oh yeah, an ember might have been swept up because it was like, particularly windy day, like Santa Ana's, and it carried, it held the ember up in, in the atmosphere for a little bit, and then it came down in the valley. It's just like, no.
No, I'm sorry. That's no. And that's the type of like, it's stuff like that, like the dumb ass. It's what it's stuff like that causes stuff like where like now I think it's illegal for people to use their fireplaces. Yeah, I mean, I know most homes now don't even,
well, yeah,
at least
like
out here.
Actually, you're sort of correct, because yeah, there was put a clean air measure put into place. So like now all new houses in Los Angeles, like being built, they can't have wood burning fireplaces.
Bullshit.
I mean, it's stupid. I get it, but yeah, I mean that's the new measure that they put in place, like for clean air, quote unquote. They don't allow homes to have fire burning fireplaces, or wood burning. I'm sorry, wood burning fireplaces.
God, it's so dumb.
Yeah, so now like all the houses come with like that gay like gas thing, and with the beads and stuff.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, what?
I was saying I remember like well, I don't know if it got converted to a gas one, but I remember like back in the day, like my parents, like especially on like the winters, we would have the fireplace going, and it was really nice.
Right. I mean, yes. Like all modern homes, like homes built like within like the 50s and stuff like that. There was like a gas pipe to like kind of help get things going.
Yeah.
But that was for like wood. But like now it's like it only burns like natural gas or propane or whatever, and like you can't like burn like logs in the fireplace anymore. There's so they won't build like a fireplace where there'll be like a trap, so that you could clean out the ashes and things like that, and it's all only like gas burning.
Yeah, it's like that's not fun. That's not romantic. That's not
right. Because like half the fun of having a fire is like the other senses, like hearing the crackling of the wood, or like the popping, like when you know, the fire gets to a certain part of the wood that hasn't burned yet, and like it causes it, to pop a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's always
Right.
fun.
Yeah, and then I remember as a kid, like during like colder times, you'd be, hanging out with you'd be riding bikes with your friends, and like you would smell like the smell of, the smell of burning wood would be in the air, and just like, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's a time that you know, for we'll probably never get that back.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of apropos that we're talking about, or we were talking about, you know, uh, kind of kooky, news anchors, because the movie that we're going to be reviewing tonight kind of deals with that topic, and that's Ace in the Hole, starring Kirk Douglas. Um, the movie kind of deals with like kind of how reporters and media outlets kind of or tend to sensationalize news events for views, or like, or just to sell papers and things like that.
This is the whole idea we talked about, like never the how a lot of the media operates nowadays is like never let a good crisis go to waste. That's exactly what it is, and it's making some a crisis that could be solved
Yeah, or I
pretty
mean,
quick.
not even like, or don't be afraid to throw a little gasoline on the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least that's like the
Uh,
mentality that's portrayed in this movie, which we will get into a little bit later. But yeah, yeah. So something like, look forward to that.
oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. It's one of my favorite movies. Uh, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Um, anything? Did you do anything this past weekend? Just to touch base a
Uh,
little bit.
yeah, well, so I did end up going over to I did finish my wife and I. We finished up doing our kind of X-Men uh marathon. We watched all the X-Men movies. Like, so going back from like the one from like starting in 2000, kind of just went through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually kind of fun. And I think, and now that I've watched them all like together, it's actually a this they did a really good job on, like, even like the ones that are not like the best, they're
Mm-hmm.
still entertaining and fun. Uh, and I know like some of them didn't get received very well or didn't do very well in the theaters, but I don't understand why, to be honest. I think they're all pretty decent.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, because I think even Last Stand is pretty okay. I know Brett Ratner and stuff like gets like a bad rap, because
good. It's a good movie, actually. I liked
yeah.
it.
I mean, because he kind of gets the criticism of like keep making the same movie over and over again. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, Last Stand wasn't like that bad. Um,
yeah. And Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix are actually really good. I like them.
yeah, that's funny because that's what I heard about Dark Phoenix. That like it wasn't like as bad as people were making it out to be.
Really not. It's really not.
So
It's
I mean, what is it? I think Apocalypse suffers from them trying to emulate, the Marvel kind of aesthetic,
yeah.
and so I
It
think
does.
that's why that's what hindered Apocalypse.
But even then, I did still like Apocalypse, and I do like the obviously, like the old cast with like James Stewart as Professor Xavier, Ian
Ian McKellen
McKellen,
as Magneto.
like though, and then obviously as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just chef kiss of like how it's perfect. That's exactly kind of like how we grew up watching the animated series, and that's it's like it came to life for us. It's like, wow, holy crap, it's here. It's like,
Well, I mean, Patrick
what
Stewart was like the only choice for Professor Xavier.
going. But then I also like the kind of the younger crew, like the new cast. I like James McAvoy. I like Michael Fassbender. I like
Michael Fassbender. Oh, dude, X-Men First Class. Yeah, heck yeah, that was great.
it's absolutely perfect.
And interestingly enough, like that movie was directed by Matthew Vaughn, who would go on to direct the Kingsman movies.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that is kind of a connection there. Now that like once I thought, I was like, oh shit, that it does make a sense. Like they do have a kind of a similar feel to them in a little bit of a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. When like, especially that scene where Michael Fassbender's Magneto goes to Argentina to confront the Nazis.
Yeah,
It's very like Kingsman like.
Right. So yeah, I really ended up. I mean, I think like the weakest one of all the films is maybe X-Men Origins Wolverine, but even then, it's still. So I enjoyed that. We also went down to Santa Monica Pier just to kind of have some fun, kind of cool off a little bit. And I think we were gonna do a few other things, but it's just that it got too late. So we were gonna do like the Getty Center and all that stuff. But we're gonna do that I think next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of looking forward to that. I haven't been there in a while, so it'll be fun. Joyce hasn't been there before, so.
Yeah, I like the. Wait, did you say Getty Villa or Getty Center?
Or whatever, like wherever the thing is in the hills or whatever, like with their.
Well, I mean, technically
like
both of them are, but like the center is the one like next to the 405.
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Okay, yeah, that place. I love that place. I love the view that place, but I also enjoy the villa. That's like more like in Malibu.
I've never been there.
Yeah, particularly going to the villa like around sunset. It's really nice because it's the villa is styled like kind of like a Mediterranean, like Italian villa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, like when you get there, when you are there at like sunset and like the golden rays of the sun are hitting, like the white and it's just like it's just really lovely. You're like it's almost like you're transported to the Mediterranean.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I've never been.
It's a good one. Yeah, the villa has more like the classical, ancient kind of like Greek and Roman stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas the center has more of like, more contemporary and modern and like, like the impressionist paintings and like the big like landscape kind of paintings.
Yeah, well, the one the exhibit I'm kind of interested in at the Getty Center, like it looks like they have a medieval art exhibit.
Yes, that's correct.
So that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, just because when you don't really think about medieval art very much, but it's not like because everyone kind of focuses on like the Renaissance and all that, and like kind of how stuff was like rediscovered and like all these different techniques were rediscovered, but there's something magical about like the Middle Ages, and people, everyone kind of calls it, it's the Dark Ages. People were dumb and like they didn't know anything. And it's like
no, like I think there's like a lot of technological advancements made during the Middle Period or the Dark Ages.
Yeah. There's so much going on during that time, and people were writing a lot, and there was actually a lot of interesting thought and thoughts in like philosophy and art and theology. Like a lot of stuff was going on then. It's actually a really fascinating time period.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's pretty much like been like what I've been up to, and then we've been working on a few episodes with like some we have some guests coming up, so we were working on that. We have well, we actually might be on another podcast here in a few weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little nervous because no, we're so used to doing our own thing, and now we're going to be playing in someone else's yard. So it's a little nerve wracking to be honest.
Yeah, that'd be yeah, because we're always having people on our on our podcast that we're seldomly the guests on anyone else's. So
Yeah,
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 this should be interesting, and hallelujah for that, because I finally don't have to like worry about equipment or the sound or anything like that.
yeah. It'll be it'll be a different thing, but obviously, like we're guests, so we don't want to steal the show or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
we just
well,
want
that's impossible, but we'll just have to do the best we can.
we want to leave them wanting more.
I know, right? We want we want to leave we want to make such an impression that they wanted us to come back.
Yeah, and and once that starts to come up, we'll talk about it, more. We'll let you guys know, but yeah, that should be happening in a couple weeks, so I'm pretty excited about that. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Like I said, I've just been trying. I've actually been trying to get ahead on our movie reviews, just in case crap happens. I'll at least be like ready to go to talk about that stuff. Um, Because sometimes there's been a few weeks where like I was crunch time. I'm like, fuck, I gotta watch this movie, otherwise I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do well.
Yeah, no, yeah, especially with like the episodes that we're planning on doing this month, it's like, and the movies that we have to watch for those episodes, it's a little overwhelming a bit. So
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get ahead this week because I do have some time because I've been working on re kind of refurbishing the office, and so while I'm doing that, I have time to watch movies. So I'm gonna try to get ahead, so that way kind of because I can always put my notes together afterwards, but like just sitting down and watching the movies and taking like quick like notes and questions about scenes that I want to talk about. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna try to get ahead this week.
mm, okay,
Yeah, this month it's always fun like when I can watch the movies with my wife, but this is a month where she's like, nope, I'm out. Black and white movies, I'm out. Can't get her to watch a black and white movie. I got her in I got her into about like a minute and a half of our movie for next week, and she's like,
mm.
nope, I'm bored. Like, fuck, you gave it a minute. Like it's like give it a second.
I don't know. I don't know. There might be no hope for her. I think you just have to divorce her.
Yeah. Gonna get married happen eventually.
Was it?
Is it just like where I'm gonna end up getting divorced and we end up getting married or something like that? Is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah, we'll enter in like some sort of like hetero life partnership.
Let's make it happen.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that's nice for you. Sounds like you had a nice, good,
Honestly,
nice weekend with your wife.
yeah, it's so fucking hot. Like I'm, even for me, it's hot. Like I've been wilting a little bit myself,
Hmm.
and so yeah, we haven't really been going out a whole bunch. So it's just kind of been more of like trying to beat the heat a little bit, trying to find something fun to do. Um, and because both her and I are so busy with a lot of things, so it's kind of nice to take the time on a weekend, or a couple weekends out of our time just to spend it together. No one else, coming over. Nothing. We're not just forced to do something. It's just more of we get to enjoy time together.
Mm. Sure, sure. Yeah. What the heck? Sorry. Yeah. This past weekend, what is it? This past Sunday, actually, me and some friends went down to Long Beach. Just to just get out of the valley for a little bit. Um, so that was nice. Actually, I was actually with Dancing Jason, and
Oh,
we went to the equivalent of his. We went to the equivalent of Dancing Jason's Chuck E. Cheese, which is this little hat shop in Long Beach. For
oh, he does.
those of you unaware of Dancing Jason, he's really into hats. He will talk your ear off about about hats and like about
I'm passionate about hats, and
yeah, like he'll tell you about all the different styles and like the history, the function, and on and on and on. But yeah, we went. We actually took like a bunch of other friends, and we kind of did a little hat shopping. I put on I forget what it's called, but it's like a flat top hat with with a very small brim. A
oh, you're
pork
talking
pie.
about
There you go, pork pie. It was a pork pie hat. But it was like a straw pork pie hat, not like a wool or a felt pork pie hat. Um,
well, straw ones are fairly. That's kind of like more of the common, famous, pork pie hat is the straw one, from what I remember. At least when it comes to the movies, where the pork pie hat was kind of made famous.
okay. Well, I mean, what is it? Probably, arguably, one of the most famous pork pie hats is worn by Gene Hackman in The French Connection.
Hell yeah! Oh fuck yeah! That's a
Yeah, but
great hat.
that wasn't but that one wasn't straw. But I remember one of my friends. She was very upset that I didn't get that hat because she said that it looked really good on me.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it was just a little bit too pricey for me, so that's also a contributing factor of why I didn't get that hat.
yeah. I mean, it's the haberdasheries. Like they're nice. I mean, it's like, and you're gonna get a quality hat, but like, yeah, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, so yeah, so I mean I agree with her. I did look good in that hat. But yeah, just the price point was just prohibitive. So
You're like Jay Black. It's like I make this look good.
wait, who?
I
Oh
was
yeah,
saying,
yeah, Agent J.
like I make
Yeah,
this
yeah,
look good.
yeah. Yeah, it's like it's like I was wearing that hat.
Exactly, exactly.
um, yeah, so that was a fun little side adventure that I had this past weekend. Uh,
Yeah, that sounds fun, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, yeah. Since, now that we got all that out of the way, let's get into the topics. Any preference in where we start?
No, man, you're running the show today, so these are your news topics. So I'm just along for the ride.
Okay, for sure. Okay, then I guess we'll just start with like the most recent, and that's what is it? The CDC came out and what is it? Amended its policies or recommendations for people regarding COVID-19. And what did you know that they start they one of the big things was like no longer making a differentiation between vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Um,
Oh.
yeah, and also what is it? What is the other thing? Oh yeah, not no longer having to quarantine like after you've had it, or like even if you have it, like there's no need to quarantine, and also what was it? Policy. Um, God, it was like right here in the front of my brain.
It's one
Yeah,
of
it was
those
like
days today. I'm flubbing like my words all I can't think today.
I don't know. Yeah, it could, yeah. Maybe it's just the heat. Maybe it's just the heat. But
But I
yeah.
can't
So
think today.
yeah. So it's no longer differentiating between vaccinated and unvaccinated people. No longer necessary quarantining people. Gosh, I should have wrote this stuff down. It was like three things that are like the most important to me, and I just for some reason I can't think of the third. But maybe it'll come to me once we start talking about it.
Yeah.
But
But it seems like, oh, I'm sorry.
after you.
You go. You
No,
go.
no, no. After
Yes.
you. No, I need some time to think. So after you.
Okay. Well, no. It kind of seems like yeah. It's like where it's kind of a duh.
Right.
Yeah. This is where we should have been 2 years ago.
Exactly. I don't know if I've stated enough, but and maybe and I hope I'm able to speak for you, Robert. But we never denied that there was something going around, right?
Yeah. We
That
never
was
said
making
we.
people sick. We never said like, oh, this is all a hoax. Like it's all in people's heads or whatever. Like we acknowledge that something was going around making people sick. But what
Yeah.
we always contended though was that the reaction was overwrought.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, we did talk about that. It's like, yeah, it's happening. It's a real thing, and it's not like it's a different strain of. When you say this, people freak the fuck out. It's like it's a different type of flu essentially. But why it becomes dangerous is because it was a lower respiratory infection, which causes pneumonia, which is very dangerous. It kills
Right.
people a lot.
Yeah,
It kills a lot.
pneumonia. Like it's pneumonia is like again like the coronavirus like causes the pneumonia, and so and like pneumonia on its own, like yeah, it's known to be deadly.
Yeah, well, especially to the people that like it's like why it was killing off old people so like like there was no
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
because that very thing. Old people die of pneumonia all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's not. And what we were finding too is that the people that were for the most part healthy without like a lot of health issues, they did yeah, it took some time, but they did recover, and they were able. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but the majority of those people are just fine. So it kind of knocked them down a little bit as it would. You being one of those people, yeah, you were kind of
That's
down
right.
for the count for a while. I mean, but you're a fairly healthy guy. It didn't kill you, but yeah, it definitely knocked your ass out a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely got I had COVID pneumonia. I had the lower respiratory problems. My breathing became very labored. Um, I had a 106 temperature. So I went to the hospital. I got checked in. I was there for about a week, and as soon as I stabilized, I was booted, and but yeah, because I was relatively healthy, like I knew like I wasn't gonna die from it. Like even
Yeah.
despite like my family's like uh, worries,
Concern.
yeah,
Yeah.
concerns. Like because my, my sister was convinced that I was gonna die, and I was just like kind of like wheezing. It's like I'll be fine, and like burning up. And it's like no, we gotta get you to the emergency room. And so yeah, so we never said like there wasn't anything going around that wasn't getting people sick. It's just like the reaction where it's like stand 6 feet apart from each other, wear a mask everywhere you go, even when you're outside, even when you're in the freaking ocean, wear a mask. Um,
And
you know,
that's one of those things where like had we been more sensible, it's like okay, maybe I understand like the first few weeks we're not really sure what's happening with it, like how it affects people, but as like more and more of the people that are coming in seeking treatment for it, it's like okay, this is how it's targeting people, and oh, it looks like the majority. This is where the the majority of people are really like a lot of old people are getting it. So how about this? Like a lot of these older to really old. let's keep them, like let's help them be safe. And then the rest of us, kind of like how like what like some of the Nordic countries were doing is like where they just kind of like, okay, it's affecting the elderly, we're gonna protect them. Everyone else, they were living their life normally, and that worked out pretty damn well for them, didn't it?
Right.
And
No.
that's
Exact. I'm
and
sorry.
that's exactly what we should have done. And I'm saying is like it worked out pretty well for them,
Hmm.
and that's exactly, not to say that like, oh, we should follow some other country's example, but yeah, we shouldn't have freaked the fuck out over everything and just like destroyed our economy, destroyed the way that people live. And I don't think there's going to be a whole generation of people that are going to live in this insane, like, like the boogeyman is going to come to get them. It's like, no, it's, yeah, people are going to get sick. People are always going to get sick, and they're going to die. That's just the reality of the world. That doesn't
Right.
necessarily,
No.
that doesn't.
It's yeah. They made people think that no one ever got sick. And it's like, and like even like last winter, Biden with his whole like, oh, winter of sickness and death for the unvaccinated. It's like that's fucking absurd, dude. Like, oh, like people get more sick during the winter time? Really?
Who would have guessed?
Like who would have thought? Who would have guessed that? But yeah, it's like again, like we've always been, of the thinking that the reaction to the coronavirus was crazy. Not that we never denied that something wasn't going around getting people sick or whatever. But yeah, but like Robert was saying, yeah, we destroyed an entire generation, of children who will never, you know, who who again they're just destroyed. Like they'll never be properly socialized. They'll think that having a mask on your face is normal, or that or like like kind of like slurring your speech because you've had a mask on your face for like 2 years, um, is normal. And thinking that people are dangerous to your health, like that's now normal for these
Yeah,
kids.
now we just see people as bags of disease that are going
Mm-hmm.
to kill us, as opposed to like, oh, that's just my fellow human being. It's ridiculous. And then on top of that too, this whole like, gotta get vaccinated, better get vaccinated, guys. Like it's super duper important. And like, the vaccine, it's going to take care of all this, you'll never get COVID again, and but that's what it went to. And then oh shit, no, it's actually not very effective. And what this unprecedented, like, COVID case of the from someone who was vaccinated. It's like, okay, so, and this is where this goes back to the idea, if it's not like, the how we would normally get the flu, but it is a type of flu. And guess what, which is a virus. We don't have a we don't have cures for viruses. That it's we can have we have to guess on, like, what type of strain, because we have what's called flu season. The boost, kind of the flu shots don't like kill the flu, and sometimes they don't work because people still get the flu.
Yeah, and actually, the, the the drug manufacturers, they actually decide what area gets which flu, because they decide like which like area or country will get which strain of flu vaccine. So in a way that they're ensuring that the population gets that type of flu, because they're using that strain, that dormant or dead piece of that strain and injecting it to people.
Yeah, it's and that's what it's, yeah. And that's not a bad thing. It's like, it's fine if you're like, you're someone who is prone to, if you do get sick a lot, if you are, like, kind of older, if you have like a lot of, health issues, going and getting, like, I don't call it a vaccine anymore, because that's not what it is. It's a booster shot. It's a flu shot. It's a whatever you want to call it. but it's not a vaccine. It's you're kind of you're giving it a designation it doesn't deserve. Um, and so it's like that's fine, get that. Like if you feel that like you need to take one every year, just kind of similar to like with the flu strain, because the flu kills a lot of people too, and that's okay. No one, and I'm not saying like I'm not telling people don't get it, don't do any of this, but like because there's people that need it, that's fine. Um, but yeah, like this a whole insanity like where and we're not even like yelling and screaming about it. It's like, but the whole idea of when we just see the reality of the situation, we're pointing it out. People get all pissed off about it. It's like there's nothing to get pissed off about. It's just we're just being
Right, because then we can all get called deniers and like, oh, you want to kill grandma, and it's like, no, I just want to kill your grandma, you know. And I make it very personal. I go, no, 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 I don't want to kill everyone's grandma. I just want to kill your grandma. Yeah, the other thing was the third thing was not testing, uh, asymptomatic people.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's the not the don't like you know not differentiating between vaccinated and unvaccinated, uh, not testing asymptomatic people or not people who don't show any symptoms. Um,
They were trying to turn a bunch of people into Typhoid Mary. That's what that was.
yeah, exactly, and it's like typically during like these kind of like outbreaks or whatever, it's like we always just protected the most vulnerable and just let all everyone else go about their lives. But this was the first time that that the reaction was so severe. It's like no, let's just treat everyone as though they have it, and just and put as many strict restrictions as possible. And just like the most surprising thing is that arguably the most surprising thing is that everyone went with it. You know?
That was like the thing. It was like when they were talking about that, I was like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. And I was like, fucking. It's like this is gonna be a huge fucking disaster. Like once the people are like, okay, that makes sense. Like once they gave that inch, dude, it
Mm-hmm.
was
It was game
that was
over.
like,
It
oh,
was yeah. It was just
it's
it
over.
was just like trying to keep a boulder from rolling downhill after that. There's no way to stop it. And I mean, I still remember those early days. When like the government was going crazy with its with both of its hands like free. Particularly here in Los Angeles. When like in Venice, they fenced off the skate park in Venice, right? But that didn't stop the skaters, and so what did the mayor do? He filled in the skate park with sand in an attempt to deter skaters. But again, I mean, again, kind of like that rebel spirit, among skaters. That didn't stop them either. The skateboarders still, the skateboarders continue to skate, even though the bowls were like filled with sand. And I remember like the LA Times, they their YouTube channel or something. They had a drone shot of the bulldozer dumping the sand into the bowl there in
Yep.
Venice, and I saw that, and I likened it to a cathedral being bulldozed down. Like I
Yeah.
mean, and I mean again, I'm not even a skater, right? I've tried skating, but for some reason I can't find my balance on a skateboard for to save my life. But
Same.
see,
Can't do it.
yeah, but seeing you know the overstretch of the government, it like filling in this the skate park with sand. It was for me spiritually the same thing as watching like a wrecking ball knocking down like a 200-year-old cathedral. I mean,
Yeah.
and we kind of did see that. I mean, the most famous cathedral in Europe, Notre Dame, was set on fire. You know, uh,
And
during
yes, it was said on purpose.
it was just because it was like some incompetent migrant person. No, so you can't be mad at him. He was incompetent. But yeah, and so again, it was always about the reaction, never about like the sickness itself. But now, like, yeah, after 2 years, and like, all these, like, in like, people's lives were ruined, like, legitimately. People lost their jobs, because like they wouldn't get, vaccinated, or they wouldn't play ball with like the ridiculous, requirements, like, walking into a restaurant, for 5 seconds with a mask on your face, only to take it off. And it's like, okay, now that we're in the booth, or now that we're at our table, like, force shield, no, like, no germs can, either enter or leave our area.
Giving us money, you can take your mask off.
Exactly. You know. And I remember, like, those early days. A lot of a lot of my friends, they would like give me the stink eye because I would kick up a fuss, and just like, and I mean, I'll admit I was beaten down a little bit, and I did comply, um, here and there, but for most of the time, I just like refused to go out anywhere. If people were just wouldn't would if people would comply, I'd be like, it's like, all right, I'm good then, I'm fine. Um, but yeah, but now, like, they kind of do this, like, thief in the night thing, and like, put it up on the CDC website, talking about, oh, like, these are the new guidelines, like, oh, it's, don't treat unvaccinated people any differently from vaccinated people, or don't test not asymptomatic people. That's just a waste of time. And just like, these are all things that we knew. Like, even from way back when, from like even like Spanish flu days, we knew this shit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this is where we now have a populace that is, has been made based off like what the media tells them, is scared of their own shadow. They, our media is, hand in hand with the government, and kind of like what they are. You can't even like you can't separate. They're not separate entities anymore. It's not like, oh, it's
No,
like the
exactly.
media being on the government, or the check on, like, injustice. That's kind of like what the media is
Yeah,
supposed
the
to be.
media was supposed to be the white blood cells, in this system, and they were supposed to call out all of the BS, and all the corruption, and all of the abuse of power. But I mean, there was a meme, but it was accurate, because it had like all of the, like, journalists, or like the heads of like media groups, and then it had like their spouses, and all of the media people were married to either like politicians, or like chiefs of staffs of politicians, and all in one party. And I'll
Yeah,
give you a hint. It doesn't start with R.
yeah, and they go back and forth, like, cause, oh, our party's out of office, so I'm gonna go work for MSNBC or CNN. Oh, our guy's
Yeah,
back
I
in office, so
mean,
now
yeah. I mean, for those of you who didn't know, George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, he used to be Bill Clinton's press secretary.
Yeah,
And guess what? Like,
it's
after Clinton's term, look who got a really cushy job at ABC. George
yep,
Snuffleupagus.
yeah, and it's like he has been, you know, eh, that is the Democrats' warm blanket, George Stephanopoulos. Like, it's like, oh, I feel so comfortable here. Like, there's no actual
Yeah, there's no actual
pushbacks.
reporting, no actual journalism going on there.
And it's like, you'd think that at least like once in a while they'd stumble into some journalism, but no, they don't. That's so that's it's gross.
Yeah, I'm sure Ben Franklin is like spinning in his grave because I mean, as much as of a politician as he was, and a diplomat, like he was also a press guy. He had his own newspaper, which would become like what is it the Philadelphia Gazette?
Something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget exactly what he founded, but yeah, it's kind of. But that even then, like that's different because Ben Franklin wasn't trying to manipulate and destroy the country.
No, exactly. In a lot, Ben Franklin, like, he was, he was for the founding principles. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, um, and so, yeah. But what's going on today is just kind of ridiculous. And I mean, again, kind of getting back to that theme about media and stuff. But yeah, like, yeah, the media and the government hand in glove. And for the past like 3 years, all they've been doing is feeding us fear, and telling us like, oh, like, no, like the suppression of your freedoms means you're more free. It's they're pissing on us without even the courtesy of telling us it's rain.
yeah. It's like take that, you plebeian. It's like uh, it's really frustrating. I'm
Right.
sad that there's a lot of people out there that are just like where they just accept what is being told to them on television or in the newspaper, and they don't think twice about it.
Right. I mean, yeah, and I'm like, and that's why we never been like super preachy. Like, even like when I interact with people, I'm never like super preachy. I don't yell at them like, "You sheeple, wake up, open your eyes." I'm never like that.
Yeah,
I softly, I softly counter their thing with gentleness. I go, "Oh, well, and again, I've recounted this incident like plenty of times. But for you new people, I remember I had a friend who shared during the you know beginning of all of like the Corona nonsense, where she was outside, she was out with her boyfriend, and she saw like and this is before like the mask was like really like you know really put upon people. It was like still kind
right.
of mostly up to them, but she was saying how not disgusted, but she was or not appalled, but she was very concerned that there were so many people out, not outside, mind you, outside, not wearing masks, and again, I just slightly pushed back against her, saying like, oh, well, I generally push back, just saying like, oh, well, you're outside, but and also, I'm sure, people are just making their own, risk assessments, um, you know, um, and admittedly, I did stretch a little bit, because I did talk about laws, particularly in California, there is a statute where you can't tell anyone what they have to wear. Um,
Yeah,
and then immediately, what is she again she lovely girl, nothing against her, but she pushed back against me, saying like, oh, well, like the mask is for it's for your protection too, right? I was just and at that point, like, I knew I couldn't talk to her, let alone like I immediately got attacked from like her friends, like, who I've never even met before. And this is all through Facebook, and they're calling me an idiot, and like, oh, you right wing, Trump supporting, moron, da 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 da.
of course.
Yeah, and and I earnestly, was thinking about how to reply to, like, all of them, but I just at a certain point I realized there is no argument that I can make, no perfectly worded statement that I can give to them that'll make them go like, huh, maybe you're right. Just going by like the kind of the vitriol that was sprayed at me, and
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, like, I've never been the one to like yell at people like, oh, you're sheeple, you're sheeples, listen to Big Daddy government, you sheeple. I was never that type of person. I was always the maybe have you considered this type of person?
Oh, it's kind of how I felt like when I was getting yelled at by the internet when I was talking about how Michael Jackson's a pedophile.
There's definitely fire to that fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, but and just like, and then even okay, in addition to like the CDC, it's just kind of like doing like a sleight of hand with these guidelines. Fauci had the unmitigated gall to come out and say that during this this divisive time, he was the one, he personally was the one to symbolize like integrity and honesty and and he was like the inspiration for young people of this generation to go into like the STEM field and just like
if only to like take strip him of his job and like actually have some sort of sanity in that field, maybe. But I will admit that guy has some fucking balls.
Seriously.
He is everything he has done, he has gotten wrong.
Exactly. I don't know if it like stuck, but like there's a reason why certain corners of the internet refer to him as flip-flopping Fauci.
He has taken positions on. He's taken both positions on every argument.
Exactly. Sometimes within the same day.
Yeah, or in the same sentence in the same interview, and it's like those things don't match up. You can't have both sides of that argument. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Fauci was literally taught. What?
I was saying, if I never hear another Fauci interview, it'll be too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Fauci is literally talking out of both sides of his mouth. It's like, oh, masks don't do anything. Actually, masks are incredibly effective.
They're super duper important. If you don't wear them, you hate your grandma.
Yeah, it's like oh, vaccines, they should be reserved for the most vulnerable. Actually, everyone should get vaccinated.
Actually, I am the science.
Yeah, I am the science. So it was so Palpatine, where it's like, I am the Senate. It's like, I am the science.
It's just like a little swarmy piece of shit. Fuck him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that little troll.
He looks like the evil Lloyd Kaufman.
Who?
Do you know like the creator of Toxic Avengers?
Oh,
Lloyd Kaufman.
Oh, okay.
Like Lloyd Kaufman.
Okay. I don't know. I was gonna say more evil Keebler elf.
Oh well, that works too. Lloyd Kaufman, he's one of the kindest, funniest, old guys that are out there. He kind of reminds me. He's like a little bit of a younger version of Mel Brooks, and yeah, but yeah, Dr. Fauci looks like the evil version of that.
Yeah. But yeah. So we can't let these people like get away with this. I'm not calling for people to arm up or whatever, but just to push back, just even just gently,
gives fucking resistance.
Give some resistance, it's because now we are a society. If the United States is kind of like a body, like an organism, and our immune system, which is the media, has failed us. It is incumbent on us to step in and be the immune system and call out lies and also push back on certain on claims that are being made.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, like I do feel that there are there are people that are doing that, that they are kind of, the new media, kind of like more of like the independent guys are kind of doing that in some sense, like where they are, yes, are they biased? Sure. And they don't deny it either, which is fine. I have no problem with that.
Right.
And but they are doing their best to expose the truth. They're not allowing people to just like, allowing the media and the government to just like run into a corner and like into their safety blanket, and like, where they just do whatever the fuck they want. No, they're calling them out. They're calling them, when they need to be called out. And it's a good thing. There is resistance out there. It's not, if you're feeling that it's a hopeless situation, it is. Yeah, is it a serious situation? Absolutely. It's but is it hopeless? I don't think it's hopeless, not yet.
Right. And I mean, I understand people who are like, who work a 9 to 5 or and plus, and they're, and they just want to be able to get information on the quick. But those days are over. There's what is it? It's because the news networks and the media organizations, they weren't giving you news. They were giving you credibility. And in this, and like they have now fully, the in 2020 when the masks came on, they also came off. Um, and I mean, even, and I think even before then, since like Donald Trump, the media has kind of like revealed itself to be this, withered, ugly, grotesque thing that is no longer fit for purpose.
Yeah, he definitely ripped off the mask so that we could see what they really are. And now, does that mean that he was always right and we praise him on everything he did? No.
But in this one thing, he was correct.
If he did one thing, this is the one that is like, yes, thank you for doing that. I mean, it's shit that I've been saying for for at least a decade, but it's just to say like, wow, there's that, somebody that does have more power than I do, was able to do that. It's like, thank God. And yeah, thank God. And I think that woke up a ton of people.
But yeah, like we can't just expect to be given all the information. Now you have to be more proactive in your news sources. And I'm not saying that don't no longer watch CNN or MSNBC. Like watch them, fine, but then also watch, you know, and I'm not saying that Fox News is good either, but watch Fox News, but then also watch like independent sources. Um, even like Project Veritas or hell even Alex Jones.
Who's gotten a lot of shit right.
He's gotten a lot of shit right. Say what you will. Like did he word it like the most perfect way? No. Like the whole like frogs being gay thing. Was he being hyperbolic? Was he being sensational? Yes. He said like oh they're making the frogs gay. Or was he trying to get through a truth? Yes. He was talking about like pharmaceutical companies dumping their waste in like this creek in Northern California, which was changing the sex of frogs.
Yeah. Which it's like, so he was right. And that's right. And people are like, oh, Alex, you're such a crazy person. Oh shit, he was right. Okay. Like, 10 years, 5, 6 years later, now everyone's, talking about like, some of the things that he'd been talking about, ages ago.
And I mean, like most people, because like, and most people have like the memory of a goldfish, but like he was criticizing Bush too back in the day, and like to the point where like people thought that he was left wing.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I didn't disagree with him in a lot of ways. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of things he did that I didn't like. It's better than the alternative, but it's kind of, he's a lot like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
His dad wasn't great either.
I know, that's why he only had one term. Like in modern history, Bush Senior was like the only one not to have a second term. I mean, other than Carter.
outside of being assassinated or dying.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's how bad he was. Like, like his whole, like, read my lips, no new taxes. And what does he do? He introduces a new tax.
Boom.
Boom. Done. I mean, kind of like similarly, that's what ended Gray Davis's run as California governor. Because he promised no new taxes either, but he ended up taxing people. And
among other things.
Yeah, among other things. But yeah, like, his constituency saw that as a breach of his campaign promises. So, like, you're gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, accountability.
You have to use your brain.
Right. Yeah.
And
and for those, and for some of you, you might have to take it off the shelf. Give it a little, and shove it back in.
Pop it back in, and that's okay.
That's okay. And I know it's gonna be painful, and it's gonna seem tedious, but God gave us a brain. Oh, very interesting. Just a side note, very interesting thing that I was thinking about today. But just kind of like this whole idea that people can't be trusted, and like or an individual can't rely on their own discernment.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about actually thinking about the Garden of Eden, and a very important distinction that I think gets overlooked is that the tree that they ate from was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't the tree of knowledge. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Meaning that they weren't dumb. That Adam and Eve were not dumb.
Right.
They had knowledge, but they just didn't have the knowledge of good and evil. And so even from the very beginning, God did not make stupid people.
No.
So,
and that's what a lot of people don't realize, because they kind of like look back to the past, like, oh, they were so dumb. It's like, no, actually, the ancients were way smarter than us. And they also had technology to work with.
Yeah, have you never heard of the Hanging Gardens in Mesopotamia or Babylon? It's like one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. People see like these giant like temples and like how ornately that they're decorated, and just like, oh yeah, what a bunch of retards. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? It's like, okay, can you make that? Can you make that right now with all the technology that we have right now? Can you make that?
We can't get our fucking roads fixed within like a day, much less build like an ornate like the pyramids or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just think like what is it? There's like that one place in Persia, and like it used to be like a palace, and like one of the stones is like the height is of like a 3-story building, and the length is like of like I forget, like some really big boat.
Right.
I forget the exact length, but it's like it's that long, and it's like one solid piece. It's like, how did they move that?
Exactly, and it's like where it boggles the mind, and it's like it's amazing, and like what these guys were coming up with like such rudimentary technology, and like how their brain functioned. And like I said, nowadays we get like all these quote unquote experts together, and they can't fucking do it a damn thing. They get everything wrong. Oh shit, like we miscalculated, or we did this wrong, or we have the wrong material. Whoops.
Right. I mean, like on the island of Crete, they're it's so funny. I was just thinking about this stuff, about like how amazing the ancient world was. But yeah, like on the island of Crete, like the palace of like presumably I forget who the king was, Minos. In the mythology, the mythology of Theseus and the Minotaur. But
Right,
like,
right.
yeah, like they found like an ancient temple. They found an ancient palace on Crete, and it was very sophisticated. It had like it actually had like what is it, like a HVAC system practically, where it had like a system of vents where it would capture like all of like the cool breeze from the coast, and it'll pipe it through the entire palace.
Wow,
Essentially ancient air conditioning.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and
These
I mean
guys are
not
just
and of course not to mention like they had a sewage system. They had indoor toilets like and had like and had like a waste drainage system in the palace.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. But again, people will look at it as like, oh, what a bunch of fucking retards. And like you can't be a retard and build that sophisticated of a system. You just can't.
Yeah,
And secondly, like, okay, you remake that right now. You're so modern and you're so educated or whatever. Make that right now.
apparently we can't even go back to the moon.
I know it is. We can't even go back to the moon because apparently the technology was destroyed and it's too painful, not too difficult, too painful to recreate. And again, that's me quoting NASA's top astronaut, Don Pettit. Look him up, Don Pettit. He literally says that. I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond, but we don't have the technology anymore, and it's too painful to recreate. Direct quote. Direct quote.
Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. But it's kind of, I think it's kind of fun, like how we kind of drifted into like some historical stuff, because that's kind of like what our next topic is about. Is it's kind of looking at back in the past.
Right. Absolutely.
Why don't you introduce this? I really have to go pee. That freaking
Okay.
sweet tea that ran through me.
All right. Yeah. This isn't necessarily a news topic, but just kind of like a interesting thing to discuss. Uh, at least me and Robert thought. But recently, uh, or in recent history, there's been kind of like this push to denigrate or cast aspersions on anyone who you know is a nationalist or anyone who roots for their own nation. And it's now I mean it's almost now a pejorative to be called a nationalist, or it's very or the accusation is or it's become an accusation, especially amongst religious people. Like there's the almost insult of being known as a Christian nationalist. Um, but when you look at kind of like the failures of what the opposite of that system would be, which is or that identity, and that's globalism. You get rubber from Brazil, lead from Ethiopia, and wood from Cambodia to create a pencil. Um, you know, you know, and I don't think that nationalism is really the problem. And of course, I would, of course, I'm not really, that much of a globalist, so I wouldn't, what am I trying to say? I just think that nationalism has been getting a bad rap lately, and after.
Oh, what I was saying is, like, I think it's natural for people to have some loyalty to their nation. I mean, that's kind of how it's been throughout the history of the world. It's been a group of these nation states essentially. And if you lived in like the Roman Empire. Of course, you're gonna be for the Roman Empire. You think that you're the best, or if you were in like the Middle Ages, if you're in England, England's the best. The French thought that they were the best, and they were everything French. And that doesn't mean that they weren't interested in other countries. Because as time, as more types of diplomacy happened, that's of course people were interested in other countries. Even like I would even say at the founding of our nation, a lot of our early architecture, all our government buildings, stuff like that, they were enamored by like the Roman Empire and French architecture. Like there's a lot of French and Roman, even some English, and it's not because like that they just like the way that they look, but that doesn't mean that like they are like, oh, we need to be exactly like this country or this other country.
Or no, we have to completely do away with our national identity.
Exactly, and here's the difference with for our country, right? Our country, unlike a lot of others, is not based off of bloodline or a skin color or what. It's based off of ideology. It's based off of an idea. And the idea that man is meant to be free, they are meant to be able to protect themselves, to speak out, to think for themselves, to worship how they want to worship. That's what this country was founded on. And
although I would make an argument for like heritage Americans, you know you know uh, you know uh, like every nation has an ethnicity, and so I would argue for that. Like there is such a thing, and there's nothing wrong with it there be existing something like a heritage American. So like if you're white and you could trace your lineage to like the founding of this country, then okay, yeah. But to your larger point, yes, you're correct. America's unique in that America's unique in that it's not based on bloodline and or like it's like, oh, only white people are Americans. But yeah, it is ideology.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that like it's wrong to like where I mean, because for me, like skin color, all that shit, it doesn't matter. What I do care about is like, yeah, I am a nationalist. I like the United States of America. That is the country that I live in. That I my family is from here. Like it's several generations of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this country. I served my country. I still serve my country in a way. I work. I work for the post office, and that is in a way serving my country.
Right. And
And
as just really quickly, and as many, I mean, I guess politicians and also also former service members, they've said that when they took their oath to defend this country, they don't remember there ever being an expiration date on that.
exactly, like you don't like I said. If you talk to any Marine, it's like once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine.
Right. What is it? There's no such thing as a former Marine.
Exactly, and that's kind of the way I feel. Like, yeah, I might not be actively serving in the United States Navy anymore, but I'm always going to be a sailor. That's the oath I took. To defend this country, to care about this country, and I'm doing it in a different way right now. But I feel just as obligated to that oath that I took all those years ago, as I did, as I do today. And it's okay to like your country, that you want your country to succeed. That doesn't mean that you want like other countries just completely obliterated. I mean, I don't want like the bad governments around. I hate the Soviet Union. I'm glad that's gone. I would love for Cuba to come back to like to some sort of sanity. The communist government in China, I'd love to get rid of those. And some of like the bad governments in the Middle East, like Iran, like yeah, I would like them to just be gone, because here's the thing, there's a lot of good people in those countries that are under subjugation, that are being tortured or harassed, um, beaten, tortured, all this stuff. And I want those people to be free in their in some form or fashion. Like, they don't have to. It doesn't have to be like the George Bush way of like, oh, we're going to spread democracy around the world. If they live in a monarchy or whatever form of government that they like, but they are generally free and they're happy, that's what I want. I want that. I want them to be happy with where they live, and try to make their country the best country that they can make it. If they decide that they want to come move over here, and like they think that America is better than like the country that they're living in, and they come over here in like the right way, that's awesome. And same thing here. If you're unhappy living in the United States, which is possible, there's a lot of people that are unhappy here. Well, then try to go to the country that you feel like you can make a good living and you'd be happier in. If that's going to France or Norway or Canada, that's okay. I'm not gonna I'm not trying to kick people out of the country, but if they feel like they're gonna be happier and more productive, why not do that? And then you become like, I am for Canada. I'm a Canadian nationalist. I love Canada, or I love France, or I love England. There's no problem with that. This whole idea of like this whole, oh, we want to be without the whole stupid John Lennon song of like imagine, where imagine there's no borders and there's no possessions and it's like, fuck that shit. That's all commie bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Owen Benjamin has a joke, where it's like, imagine no possessions. Like, you first, bitch. Talking to John Lennon. But yeah, like recently, nationalism has been kind of getting a bad rap, and a point has been, was brought to me recently concerning World War One, and and World War One gets a bad rap too, because it's like, again, it's categorized as a war of nations, or a war sparked because of nationalism, famously because of what's his face, the Serbian guy, Princip.
Princip. Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, assassinating the Archduke Ferdinand of Austria. But really, that World War One is a war of globalism. In that, because the only reason why all these countries went to war with each other is because they all had all of like the primary countries involved in like the kickoff to World War One had treaties with other countries, and so if they went to war, then they would be the other countries would be obligated to go to fight with them. And so that's why you had like Austria, had the
Austria-Hungary was allied with Germany,
mm-hmm.
and Russia was allied with the Slavic people, with Serbia, and then England Germany
was,
where like if they had to like if they were war like with this other country, then like Germany and France get involved, so now they're gonna prematurely try to like end the war here, like in that's just, it just kept escalating. It's like, had they just cared about their own thing, it would have changed a lot of
history.
Yeah. And yeah, like people think it's like, oh well, it's because they were so because they had such nationalistic fervor, and it ended up escalating. We ended up 20 years later, World War II, which is kind of it's kind of the same idea, but yeah, had they people did have nationalistic fervor, but the way that the governments were operating was like on this like very global level. Like it's like, oh, we have to we're allied with all these other countries, and so if this country decides to go to war with this person or that person, well, we're dragged into it because we have this treaty or this contract with them. And it's like, why would you do that to yourselves? Like it, and because World War One is the most unnecessary war I think that has ever been, one of the most unnecessary wars that's ever been fought, and it destroyed Europe. It destroyed whole I mean, whole villages were wiped out
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
It,
day.
it wiped it wiped out an entire generation.
And like it wiped out everything just for
Yeah,
because
and
you're
it introduced war on an industrial scale.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, one of like I think one of the best movies that that depicts uh, this idea of like global the how like the countries didn't have a choice but to go to war was is in Kingsman, the prequel Kingsman movie, which I watched recently, and I was just like I was like, holy crap, that's right. It's like it's all because of like all these like like literally globalism. Because all these different countries were interconnected with each other through these treaties. That's the reason why World War II kicked off, or World War One kicked off.
Yeah, and actually, because I did like the Kingsman prequel just because it's kind of a nice little bit of like alternate history, a little bit.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I enjoy that too.
yeah, but if you're looking for a good way, just kind of a good World War One type of, you're trying to figure out like how that all happened. You not to just plug another channel, because obviously I want people to come to us, but check out the Great War channel. And they at the 100th anniversary of World War One, for 4 years, week by week, they broke down. Yeah, and there's like just short like 8 to 10, 12-minute videos, and like they would break down like what happened throughout the war week by week, who was involved,
Mm.
who like how things progressing, and you start to see like all like the tinderbox that was Europe because of globalist ties. Had they just been more focused on like what they're doing, what Germany should have been more focused on, their aspects, England with them, Russia with their own thing. Uh, I think things would have been way different. And but like this is why we go back to the past to look at the mistakes people made and to learn from them. We obviously have not done that because we are caught right back in the same thing. We talked about this several weeks ago with the idea where, oh, yeah, oh, it's Putin's price hike. That's why our economy is so bad. It's like, no, you know why our economy is bad? Is because we have shipped off all of our jobs. We have relied on other countries to give us stuff. We don't produce our own anything of our own anymore. There was like this short period of time where we were energy independent. We didn't require oil from the Middle East or Russia or Venezuela
Venezuela
or all.
or countries that hate us.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't rely on them, and we were starting to bring jobs back to this country. Certain manufacturing jobs were coming back here, and we weren't creating this like slave class of migrants that were shipping over from other countries either, or shipping or creating these like slave shops over in other countries in like China and Mexico and all these places.
Vietnam or Indonesia.
Yeah, and people don't think about stuff like that. it's not because like I hate those I hate people that are in those conditions over there. It's because I do care about them. I don't want them to suffer, and I don't want us to be reliant on other people. And that doesn't mean that we can't do trade with them at times, or but if it's not benefiting us in any way, why are we doing anything? Like, to be honest, the idea of the United Nations and all that shit, like, in a heartbeat, if I had the power, all that shit would go away.
Hmm.
We don't, all the NATO stuff, all fuck all that. We don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's going on right now with with Ukraine and stuff. They're not even like technically our allies. I mean, yeah, the United States and Russia did go into an agreement with Ukraine that if Ukraine was ever attacked by neither the United States or Russia, but they were attacked by some other country, then yes, we would have their back. But because it's Russia, you know, we there is no treaty with Ukraine. So right now
Yeah.
we're pretty much in a proxy war with Russia, through Ukraine.
And for whatever reason, Zelensky is going around to like our government officials in Congress and the Senate, and he's pulling a Sam Wilson in Falcon and Winter Soldier. You need to do better,
You need
U.S.
to do
government.
better, American congressman.
Yeah, it's like you need to help us and give us $40 billion. Like, oh, okay, Mr. Zelensky, I'm sorry. It's like, what are we doing? And it's
Right,
like
but
their government is just as horrible as Russia is. It's
yeah,
like
and actually they were, they're like the Zelensky government was installed by the U.S. government back in like 2017 or something. There was like some sort of coup or something, and like the we like the U.S. we disposed of the legitimate government of Ukraine, and then we like installed Zelensky.
it's just like what, and then we put in, and then like the house of cards that we put up, and our sanctions against Russia to build the pipeline. I don't know exactly how that. I'll be honest, I have no idea how those fucking sanctions work. To me, it just feels like there's sanctions against us. What are we gonna do? It's like,
Yeah, it's kind of like
uh,
it's kind of like the citations given out by like hall monitors in schools. Like it doesn't mean anything.
it feels like it means nothing. But for whatever reason, it was sort of kind of working.
Right, but then it ended up
And
backfiring because Russia decided like, okay, whatever, I don't have to give you oil. It's like, oh no, please give us oil. It's like, no, you made your decisions. Like with the whole like kicking Russia out of like the SWIFT monetary system. It's like, okay, fine, let's go with China. It's just like every like sanction, everything that we try to do to hurt Russia, it ended up just backfiring on us.
yeah, it's all stupid globalist garbage.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, like the whole like price, Putin's price hike thing. That's because like we're fucking around and pissing off like all the people that made shit, like China, and and all the oil producing countries. That's what it was. I mean, and not to say that that's what's causing it, because everything is like like in the market, it's kind of reactionary. So it's like a bullwhip. So right now, like like look at gas. Like look how much gas is coming down, and that's only because again, it's like a bullwhip. So right now, like we were at the very top of the press, but now like it's coming back down, like just like a whip. But yeah, I mean, because we're not like producing our own, and like we've let a lot of the refineries burn or like go derelict. Um, Gas is going to be expensive for a while. Sorry to say, but it is.
Yeah, it really is.
But it's a self inflicted wound is what I'm trying to get at.
But that's the thing. Like, that I've been saying. It's like we have no one else to blame but our government officials that we've given power. It's like they've been doing this. Has been a death by a thousand cuts. That it's slowly kind of like it was kind of slowly going that way, and then boom, it's all kind of hitting at once now.
Right. The cuts are finally catching up to us, and it's like a little bit of blood, a little bit of blood here, a little bit of blood there, a little blood there. But again, because there are 1,000 cuts, that means there are 1,000 drops of blood. And we're now feeling it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just it was a fun thought, like of just how something like World War One, it does get blamed on nationalism, and kind of the same thing. World War II, same kind of idea where it's this like nationalism fervor, because they always talk about how like that's Nazi talk. That's what Nazis are like. They just they're all about
they're all about themselves, and it's like, well, I mean, I'm not backing Hitler, but he had some points, like.
I'll be honest, yeah, he does have, the way that the Treaty of Versailles was dealt with, how he was part of World War One.
Yeah, I mean, and really, Hitler was a traumatized vet.
He was what?
He was a traumatized vet.
Yeah, and like there was things that he saw during the war of like what ended up causing Germany's loss, and that's what he was going after in his insane crusade. When he took over power in Germany. Mm-hmm. Right. Obviously it was in a very fucked up way, but I could see like where that monster was created.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's it was and once it goes back to globalism once again.
Mm-hmm. Right, because the global powers dictated that Germany would be the whipping boy, and they would have to like make all these these payments and make restitutions, and even though it was like all Austria-Hungary, who kind of dragged Germany into it.
Yeah, like two great world powers came to an end in World War One: the Ottoman Empire and the Austrian-Hungary, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Mm-hmm. They were gone. Yeah, and Germany was the only one left, to face the consequences, even though everyone kind of had they should just point fingers at themselves. Like we could have ended this a long ass time ago.
Right. But yeah, I totally forgot about it. Yeah, the Ottomans and the Austro-Hungarians.
Yeah, like I said, and the Ottoman Empire had lasted like 1,000 years, mm-hmm. and it's just overnight.
Amazing.
It's insane.
Yeah. But yeah, so I hope this was I hope this discussion was kind of illuminating, and maybe you might kind of rethink your maybe your stances on nationalism, if not like like even other topics, because that's all we do. That's what we really do here is we kind of like ask people to slightly change their perspective a little bit and think about things in a slightly different way. And it's and I hope I hope it only benefits you.
I mean that's what we hope for, is just to maybe give you something to think about. Like we're not trying to lecture anybody. We're not trying to tell people what to think exactly, but like we're trying to point you in a different direction a little bit. Just kind of maybe, if anything, we're telling you to think about things a little bit deeper. Don't just go based off of what like the mainstream narrative is, because that's not always right either. And the world is not it's not a dichotomous thing. It's not just black and white. It is there's a lot of ugliness that you have. It's a lot. It's very murky. You have to kind of sort through a lot of things. And there's gonna be times where you think like, oh wow, the good guy's really not all that good, and oh, the bad guys actually have a good point. Like there's you have to wrestle with that a little bit. It can be a little scary, and I think that's why people shy away from it because it's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially to
yeah,
think
it's kind of a joke now, but like I didn't want to not believe in the moon landing, but it's like three questions was all that. Three questions was all that it took for me to completely shift my thinking on the moon landing, and it's ones that cannot be reconciled. They just can't.
yeah, I haven't quite gotten that far, Andy, but like I said, it is troublesome. I'll just say that.
Like I mean, yeah, I'm hoping one day like they'll prove me wrong. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to be proved wrong.
That's what I want. It's not, I'm just like, these are some interesting questions to ask, and when the people that are, the experts that, should know about this stuff, when they sound like, oh, well, it's
The diagonal lights.
yeah, it's, you're the top scientist at NASA, and this is what you sound like. That doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like with also like the mayor of New York, the new one, Eric Adams.
Ugh.
Dude, he literally sounds like a retard.
He might be.
Just like it's just like the way he talks. It's like very slow. It's like wherever I go, I drink my New York tap water. It's just like, why do you sound like that? I mean, yeah, it was kind of like a meme because like before he made that public service announcement saying like, oh yeah, no, drink the tap water. It's completely safe. But like a few months later, a report came out saying that there's like a high amount of like some sort of bacteria in New York City tap water.
He's probably brain-eating bacteria. That's why he sounds so stupid.
I don't know, but yeah, I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating the way he talks. That's literally how he sounds.
Yeah. It's like and maybe it was another one of those diversity hires. Like, well, we got to get the challenge a break. Let's let one of them become the mayor.
It's funny because I had hopes for this guy because he at a time it was like during the time of like everything like BLM was going off and he used to be a police officer. I think he was like he was like one of the top brass. I think he was like a chief or something in the New York Police Department.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a little encouraged, but like after like all of like his stupid takes and like and like really listening to him and like he sounds like a retard. I'm sorry, he does.
It's like you couldn't get much worse than what they had, but damn.
I know with Bill de Blasio or Warner Wilhelm. That's actually Bill de Blasio's name, his legal name.
Mayor Oprah Killer.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy though too. It's like because he was so hard during like the lockdowns. He was like going after like Hasidic Jews, and it's like Werner Wilhelm going after Jews. Not the best optics.
Exactly. That's
like the most German sounding name, and like and he's going after Jews. Ugh.
Not a good look.
Willie, not a good look. Willie, not a good look.
But yeah, no, I just thought like you said when we were watching that movie, like you brought that up that point, I was like, yeah, this would be a fun thing to just kind of like
riff about, yeah.
Yeah, we like to do that sometimes. Like we don't necessarily always have like a bunch of news topics. I don't.
Plus, I don't like it's everyone's talking about like Trump and like Mar-a-Lago and the raid and it's like.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it at this point. Like and like we'll eventually get back to that story because I know there's gonna be like once.
Right, I'm just waiting for all of the information to come out because you're like it's like why is Trump like, oh, Trump is the one who, released, let everyone know that it was happening to him. It's like, yeah, like, this is the news people complaining. It's like, oh, like, why wasn't it you who broke the story? Trump is the one that broke the story on Truth, that the FBI was raiding him. Why wasn't it you guys? It's like, oh, well, it's like, well, he put it out, like, because, he already put it out, so it's like, it was his decision. So, yeah, but I bet he won't show you the warrant. It's like, all right, bet, and, Trump disclosed the warrant. It's like, oh, well, it's because, he wanted, it's because of nuclear codes. It's like, nuclear codes aren't recycled amongst, presidents.
Exactly. It's like it's like I just we'll wait for more information to come out. Like but I'm bored of it already. Like so that's why I like to do some of these like thought exercises a little bit, just because. And I actually do have a lot of fun with them. Just because like why don't we look back into the past or whatever, and let's actually think about something differently. The idea that this war that is blamed on nationalism is actually really not. It's actually globalism. The stuff that we are dealing with right now. And like guess what? Like we are at a point like as close to World War III as maybe we've ever been. The idea because of why? Because we're Ukraine, and now that Russia is kind of connected with China and North Korea and Venezuela and all that shit. And so but we've thrown our hat into the ring with the Ukraine,
which literally means borderland.
Yeah, it's one of the most occupied territories in human history. Yeah, it has changed hands so many fucking times. It's ridiculous.
Right, and it's like, and like the media make it sound like, Russia was like, claiming like territory that didn't belong to them. It's like when like the areas that were invaded, like the Donbass and I forget the other place, they were made up of majority ethnic Russians.
Yeah.
Okay, so like how exactly is that invading? Like when like the population is made up of ethnic Russians, like the majority population, is it really invading or is it just taking back what's theirs? I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
That's a good question. It's like that's actually a great question.
Because I mean, like now we have particularly in the southwest of the United States and like even here in California, Southern California, it's like I know it's kind of like an oxymoron, but the majority minority is Mexican American or Hispanic American, and so like we complain about like the cartels coming in and taking over territories but is it really like the majority of the population is Mexican or Hispanic, so it's like is it really them taking over our territory or is it just claiming what's already theirs? I don't know. Again, just asking a question.
Now, do I want the cartel here? Fuck no. I
no,
want them.
Exactly. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah, don't get misconstrued.
I wish they were dead. It's because they've made Mexico suffer. It's like their country is a shithole because it has been corrupt for I can't even count how many generations. But then you have the cartel, which is essentially running the government. It's a puppet government that's run by the cartel, and they're trying to encroach upon.
They're two gangs who just it's just two gangs that made deals with each other. Like, because the cartel, like, they will not go into like the touristy places like Ensenada or Puerto Vallarta or all the really touristy places. And so the supposed legitimate government and the cartels made a back alley deal saying, all right, you can operate everywhere else, but just stay out of the touristy places.
Yeah. So that's like when people say, "Oh, Mexico is just fine." It's like, I guess you were either in Cancun or
there you go. Cancun. That was the other one. That's the other one I was thinking about. Cancun or Puerto Vallarta, or even like Ensenada a little bit because that's where like the
You're not,
cruise ships come.
yeah, you're not in fucking like Juarez and
Yeah, or
Tijuana and like
Chihuahua.
yeah, where people are being like strung up like on the middle of bridges and shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it like people think that the cartel violence is like just in Mexico. Dude, it's here. Like in Los Angeles, no less. Recently there was that story of a body found like hanging in a tree and like on fire. That's
Yep.
yeah. That's cartel. That's cartel violence. Someone is sending a
Yep.
message. Someone is sending a message, and I think it might be don't fuck with us. This is our territory. You can live here, but don't fuck with us.
Yeah. Scary shit, man.
Yeah.
Really, it's fucked up. But yeah, no, it's just we want to just give you kind of like based off of our motto is like we want to give you stuff to think about. We want to educate you, entertain you, and I think that's kind of like I think these thought exercises definitely do that. I'm definitely like entertained just kind of as you and I maybe we don't have all the answers, but we like work through some of these ideas and like think about things. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy these segments.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoy them too. Kind of like stretch out my the muscles a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's because gotta stay limber. Can't let the cement set as it were.
Can't let the old man in.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, with all that said, let's get into our movie review and we'll wrap up the stream. Again, tonight's review is the movie Ace in the Hole, starring Kirk Douglas and Jan Sterling. Let me hit y'all with the synopsis and we'll get going. With flaws that outweigh his talent, reporter Chuck Tatum has bounced across the country from job to job. Winding up in New Mexico, Tatum gets work from the local newspaper, but finds that there's not much in the way of pressing news. However, when Tatum catches wind of a treasure hunter trapped in a mine shaft, he turns the story into a media sensation. Soon, Tatum is using unscrupulous tactics to draw out the situation, an approach that comes back to haunt him. This Ace in the Hole came out in 1951, directed by Billy Wilder.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like we learned something a little. Billy Wilder. This is not our first Billy Wilder film. We actually did Sunset Boulevard was his other one of the. I mean, he's done so many, but Sunset Boulevard is a film that we've done of his. Not that long. It feels like it's not that long ago, but I think we did it actually like a couple years ago. Which is a great movie. Right. And actually something that you and I both discovered today before we started is like this actually Ace in the Hole, although that was the original title of the movie, that is not necessarily the title that there's going to be a portion of the public that doesn't remember Ace in the Hole. They'll remember the movie being titled, was it The Big Carnival? And but we don't go by that title mainly because that is not what Billy Wilder wanted. Without his permission, Paramount changed the title to The Big Carnival, and it wasn't until Turner Classic Movies and the Criterion release of the DVD in 2007 did they change it back to the original title called Ace in the Hole. And I this is actually. I love this movie so much because I actually did buy the Criterion Blu-ray, and I think I showed this a couple weeks ago. But I was just like, it's really cool. They have all these like great interviews with Kirk Douglas. I think they have something with like Billy Wilder. They have other people like kind of breaking down the film, talking about it. And the other thing that's really cool is they have like all these like the Criterion stuff always has like these cool like inserts and stuff. And Ace in the Holes is kind of like this, like their inlet is like a newspaper, and it does have like all these like essays and stuff that were written about the movie, and it's just like uh, I don't know. I've kind of become. I hope I haven't become this person, but I have become kind of a Criterion like weirdo. That's like, oh, I got to get the Criterion version of this just because.
Bro, do you even
I know,
Criterion?
yeah, but they do have. I don't like all the films that they have on there. They do have like a lot of the hoity-toity, artsy-fartsy bullshit that I hate. But there's so much good stuff at the same time where it's like I'll deal with the artsy bullshit, so that I can get like the really good stuff. And that's how I've kind of discovered some of these great movies that we've been talking about. And I knew about Ace in the Hole well before that, but that's how I discovered movies like Nightmare Alley. I found that like some of the I was able to watch a lot of the Kurosawa stuff that I've always been wanting to watch. Like, oh shit! Like now I get to watch all his films are on there. Or, I've discovered some other like this Korean movie called The Housemaid. I discovered that on Criterion, and I was like, oh man, this is a really good movie that nobody knows about anymore. It's like this old long lost black and white Korean film that outside of like Martin Scorsese, nobody knows about this damn film. but it's, and that's what I like about it. But when did you first come to Ace in the Hole, Andy?
Well, I mean, you're the one who introduced it to me, and yeah, I was a little resistant to it at first. Not because I didn't trust you or anything, but it's just like, we were doing movie reviews, more regularly, and just like the amount of movies that I was watching was just like so much, and it was like hard to try and like fit just kind of watching movies for pleasure anymore. And so
that is something where I've had to like kind of edge out time where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this because I want to watch it, not because I want to review it.
Right, exactly. And then like when I do have time, or when I do end up having some time, I end up just watching kind of like you know how did Martin Scorsese describe the Marvel movies again?
Well, his idea is like he didn't feel like that was real cinema.
Right. No, but he called it something. He referred to it something.
I had to go back to that interview actually because
But yeah, like basically, like I didn't like want to think about it. I just wanted big, like flashy spectacle. So I just played on like, I would actually just turn on Marvel movies, or like a John Wick movie, or something that was like entertaining, but I didn't like really have to think much about.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for that type of stuff. Like I like I said, I am not one of those people. It's like where if like the Marvel movies are your favorite movie, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, you clearly.
I know you Luddite.
Yeah, like I don't. That's fine if that's what like if that's what gets you excited. You wanna absorb all of that. That's great. That or if like I know like my wife's favorite movie is like White Chicks. It's not a good movie, but it's fun. It's fine and fun.
You shut your mouth, all right? That's the best movie in the world.
It's a great movie.
I know, it's like one of the few things me and your wife can like probably bond over.
I fucking love White Chicks. It's great. Like every time I watch it, I laugh my ass off. I have a great time. But it's not Ace in the Hole. It's not
I know, right? It's just like it's something that I think I don't know if I've said to you, but I definitely said this to Eric. But it's just like sometimes you just wanna eat the Big Mac, and it's like
exactly.
You can't always eat filet mignon for every meal. So yeah, and I would very much categorize Ace in the Hole as kind of like filet mignon. But yeah, because we're starting to do movie reviews more regularly, it's just like I can't, and like we were watching a lot of good movies too, and so I was just like, oh man, another like filet mignon. So like, when you told me about Ace in the Hole, I was like so, inundated, and I know and I trust your judgment, so like I knew like it was gonna be a good one. It's like one of those things that, one of those movies that it was gonna like make me think. And so, like, a lot of that, and that's why I was resistant to it. So it was like a lot of times I'll just like, you know what, I just want to eat McDonald's.
You know what? We should probably do like a Big Mac, movie month. Just like, we yeah, it's not good, but we love it anyways. We can shut our brain off and we can just enjoy it.
Right.
But yeah, I like actually
Yeah.
that I
Then
did
for
this.
sure, White Chicks have to be on there for sure.
Oh hell yeah!
That's like my favorite like Big Mac kind of movie.
I fucking love that movie. It's so good, and so yeah, that is not a Martin Scorsese would probably hate that film. That's okay.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Martin Scorsese, and I do agree with him. I do. I absolutely
right. Yeah. Like,
agree with him.
I totally agree with his assessment that that the Marvel movies aren't cinema.
Yeah, and that's okay. But that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that's okay.
I just watched this movie this weekend on Sunday night. It was a movie called I Spy with Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
It is bullshit, hilarious movie. It's dumb, and I loved every second of it. It was stupid, but it was. I like my wife and I. We just laughed our ass off. We had a great time. That's okay too. You need those films.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
But yeah, no. So going back to Ace in the Hole, like I was the one that introduced it to you. I actually, the way I heard about this, actually was from, Daily Wire's Andrew Klavan. He occasionally talks about movies, and when he was kind of breaking down Ace in the Hole a little bit, I was like, oh damn, that sounds like a good movie. I should watch this. And that's when I watched it. I was like, oh shit, this is a really good movie. And I know who Billy Wilder is. Obviously I've seen Sunset Boulevard a billion times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm drawing a blank on like some of his other stuff, but I've seen a lot of his other films too. He's a great director, and I'm a Kirk Douglas sucker. I love Kirk Douglas. He is a lot like Robert Mitchum. He's a great bad guy. Because although he's our main character in the film, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, like in your mind, you're like, fuck this guy. He's such a dick. But at the same time, you're enraptured by his performance, by like what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but like there's a small part of me that's like, you want to see like what was his end goal here? Like what was he? I mean, obviously we know the idea. He's trying to become this like big newspaper guy, but like there's definitely something more that he's going. And it's like
in a way, it's his redemption story. Because when he comes in, he lets the Mr. Boot, the guy who runs the newspaper in Albuquerque, he's like, oh, I work for, in New York and Chicago and Detroit, and like, so this guy has a past, and like, and also like, after like everything, kind of touches off, you see his interaction with the other newspaper men that come to cover the story, and he has a past with them,
Yeah.
And so this is and this is his. So and he makes it pretty clear from the beginning that he's trying to get back to New York.
Yeah. Well, and he even has that speech like after like his being a year at in Albuquerque, and he's like, oh, he's trying to get like chopped chicken liver, and it's like chicken tacos. He's so infuriated by that, and it's like, there's not, there's nothing to do around here. This town sucks, and it's like you'd have to. And he has this whole kind of New York elite speech about like kind of the the religion of like the New York Yankees and like all it's like that's his desire. He is a New York elite that's stuck in this bumpkin bullshit town in New Mexico, at least in his eyes.
Yeah.
Whereas like for the people that live there, they're happy, like they like being there. The editor and all the other like newspaper guys, they're happy being there. And yeah, it's just this guy gets into everyone's head, and he is but like I said, he's a bad guy, but like, you almost like, what was it just to get back to New York, or was did he have something even bigger in mind? We really don't know what his end game was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the most we can say is like he feels that he should be back in New York, and that he needs to be back amongst civilized people, and yeah, like whether he had greater ambitions, he felt that New York was the place that he had to be back at to to go beyond and further his ambitions. Um, what is it? Yeah, but also, he's also like, a salesman too. He was really selling himself early on, and or like, he definitely had delusions of grandeur, um, and I'm sure that's what fueled his ambition, because he definitely saw himself as being a somebody, but for whatever reason, like maybe he's getting in his own way, like something was stopping him from becoming a somebody, and
Yeah, it's yeah. So, but like for whatever reason, like I think just like everybody else, we're enamored with Chuck Tatum, like and he's a very persuasive guy.
yeah,
And
I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of funny that they changed the title of this movie to The Big Carnival, because in a lot of ways, Chuck Tatum, he is a carnival barker. The way like he was selling himself, to Mr. Boot. It's like, oh, I'm $1,000 a day, newspaper man, but you can have me for nothing. And just like the way he kind of like would tell you talk it was very reminiscent of a carnival barker. It's like, yeah, step right up, 10 cents, and you could see like the whatever of Shanghai, da da da.
like 2 bits of gamut. It's like it's
Yeah.
And well, and really the theme of the movie happens in the car ride over to the whatever the rattlesnake hunt or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's
in
like
a
where
neighboring town. Yeah.
about how like bad news is good news, like it's good for business, and good news is no news. I mean that's in damned if we aren't like in the same fucking place nowadays, because what news stories are you hearing that it's good news? None.
Right. Yeah. Like there's never been like a newspaper or a breaking news story where it's like the Chiron said like everything's fine, or or like in the newspaper like headline just like everything's peaceful.
Yeah, I mean it's or like where there was this thing that was happening, and actually it turned out good. Like, the person ended up, surviving or this or that. It's like, no, it focuses on the bad aspects of the stories. And because, and in a lot of ways, that it's, do you blame, is the media to blame? Sure. But I think it's also the public that is to blame too, in a lot of ways, because they're willing to like, they want these like sensational headlines and the bad news, and
right. It becomes a little bit who do you blame, like the dealer or the addict?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up that analogy. It's like the drug dealer and the drug addict. They're in hand together. Like they're they can't. They've become like Siamese twins. They can't. They
Yeah,
can't
in a weird way.
separate.
Yeah, they become codependent on each other.
Because if the addict gets better, the drug dealer has no income.
No
they're
clients.
and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And if there's no drug dealer, the addict, what is the addict? Well, hell, if there's no drug dealer, maybe there's no addict. Who knows?
Right.
But so it's kind of, who do you blame? And in a lot of ways, it's both parties are to blame, because you have that dumb, what Chuck Tatum calls, I see them as Mr. and Mrs. America. And how many times have we heard that from the fucking media?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, this dumb yokel is like, well, I just wanted to see the man trapped in the cave, and like, this is real educational for the kids. It's like, why would you go? Why would you go there? There's not, it's like you are essentially standing on this man's, like, misery, or his grave, essentially what ends up becoming his grave, and you are making a sideshow of it. And actually, I don't know. Here's the Simpsons reference of the day. This is the same idea of, Timmy down the well, like where it's, I think the episode's called Radio Bart, where he gets that radio thing,
Mm-hmm.
and and Bart creates Timmy down the well, and it ends up being like where he ends up getting trapped down the well. This is that they were definitely referencing Ace in the Hole,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the
Absolutely.
same.
Exactly, and it's like, what is it? Like, when they, when then like the, entertainment complex kind of rallies behind and creates, like, that song for Timmy, and then, like, Krusty does that interview talking about, like, oh, it's not like, these limos are free.
Yeah.
It's like,
But yeah, and it's like and they create that theme song for Leo trapped in like the fucking cave.
right,
It's like,
and then
and
like right next to the band playing that song, you had like a woman selling the sheet music to that song, so other people could play it.
it's the same. Yeah, it's crazy, and it's the same. This happens in real life.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary thing. The same damn thing happens in real life, and why people think that this is okay, I have no idea.
Me neither.
It's like people, it's like they want to profit off of tragedy, or like, um
Yeah, I mean, hell, even outside of the media, I also got like little twinges of, a certain a group calling for social justice. Like, cause like, what
yeah,
is it? You like, out in front of the carnival, you had like the Leo Minosa rescue fund. It's like
yeah,
all proceeds going to the Leo Minosa rescue fund. It's like, what does that sound like, people? What does that sound like?
yeah.
A certain organization with the initials BLM.
Yeah. Well, who's exactly getting that money? It's definitely not his wife.
Or his
It's
or his
definitely not.
parents. Yeah, his worried stricken mother, who's like constantly, day and night, praying for him. Always like lighting a candle for him.
Well, the limos aren't free, Andy.
Right. Right, and that's kind of and that's the justification that even the wife gives. When the father of Leo Minosa is like saying, like, oh, like, these people shouldn't be here. It's like, and his wife, his unfaithful wife is like, oh no, Papa, it's like, this is all for Leo. We could make money, for when Leo gets out.
Which is not going to happen. Like,
Which is not gonna happen.
she was ready on like 2 seconds into him like being trapped in the cave. She had like 1.5 feet out the fucking door. It was
Yeah,
Chuck
exactly.
Tatum who lured her back, just like, to come back and like benefit off of this.
Mhm.
But she was gone already. She
Right, she
hated
was
her
checked
husband.
out. Yeah.
And so it's just like, it is this movie. I think the movie, like, I think why you were so hesitant about this movie and like us doing the review of it is because it's actually, it's a really scary movie, because it does expose a lot of the reality of even like what we're facing today. Like, yeah, this movie's from 1951,
Mhm.
and if it was real back then, how much more? It's scary how real it still is
Right. I
today.
mean, especially now with like the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that like this was real in 1951, it blows the whole facade of like the unbiased journalist that's just trying to expose the truth.
Hmm.
There's none of that. It was never
Exactly.
true.
Exactly. And I think that's why um, Tatum was having such a hard time because like the man that the guy who ran the newspaper in Albuquerque, he was a good man, and it was evident right away with like with like because like the needle point thing that hanging in the office, which is kind of like the guiding principle for Mr. Boot and for the newspaper that he wanted to run, and that needle in the slogan was tell the truth.
Yeah. And he
And
even says like, I don't care if we're selling newspapers. Like, this is bullshit. I don't want it in my newspaper. But
mhm,
because Chuck had kind of uh wrangled his way into he had kind of corrupted that newspaper. I feel bad for the editor of the paper because he had lost control. Not I don't think it was necessarily of his own doing, that but uh maybe that like just for like that small second I was like, wow, we're selling a lot of newspapers. That's good. And so he gave him a little bit more leeway. But when he started to see like, oh shit, this is none of this is real. It's all fake bullshit.
mhm,
That's what he's like. I don't care if you sell 3 million newspapers. Like I don't want this in my. I don't want this.
mhm.
And I have a feeling that we don't really see it, but I have a feeling he may have torn down the tell the truth, and like I think he after all this incident he may change the name of the newspaper and start over. Um, just because he's probably so ashamed by like what happened that he was even like associated with it.
I don't necessarily think that, but I think he would. I think Mr. Boot, uh, after that confrontation that he has with Tatum, I think he will redouble his effort to try and live by that axiom.
Yeah, well, he was a belt and suspenders man.
Right? Yeah, I totally missed that the first time I watched this, but that's such a profound observation. When like Chuck was like kind of sizing him up, saying like, "Oh, you're a belt and suspenders kind of guy." You
You,
check and you double check,
yeah,
and then when you
and
stand
like
and when you stand up, you see him, and he's wearing a belt and suspenders, which is funny because like
yeah,
Chuck also adopts that. Like when like the 2 years go by, if you look at Chuck, he's wearing belt and suspenders.
yep, yeah, he is. Yeah. How do you feel about Leo? What do you think about Leo Minoso? Like,
Well, I mean,
what do
obviously,
you think?
yeah, Leo is like the tragic character um, in this whole thing. He's the innocent victim. He was like the everyman. Loved his wife. Was trying to do right by her. But it takes like this, near death experience. Well, eventually becoming a death experience, um, to make him realize that he has to treat his wife better, and like he was, I mean, he was already planning to, because he got her that gift of like the mink wrap. But
Yeah.
he really wanted to do right by his wife, and after that, after falling into and being trapped in that mine. Yeah, it's just kind of sad that he never gets to fulfill that promise.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I feel so yeah, and this is where this kind of goes back to like, with the media is like, when you are unscrupulous and you don't care about the people affected by your stories, people, maybe they don't die, like in this case, but they're affected so deeply that they never recover. And we've seen that how many countless times just in the past few years where things are manipulated and people's lives are completely destroyed, and you might not be able to recover from it.
Right. I
And in the
mean,
case of
yeah. I mean, just kind of like the most, prevalent example, but like the whole George Floyd thing, like those four cops, their lives are over, and I mean, particularly like the main guy, Chauvin, you know, yeah, he's in prison now.
yeah
He's a convicted murderer. Whether or not you necessarily believe that title applies to what happened, but that's on the record now. He's convicted of murder.
yeah it's so his life has changed forever and probably never to recover.
Yeah, and I mean just ancillarily, like all those people, the businesses that were burned to the ground. It's like and like and all those people callously saying like, oh well, they have insurance, so they'll be fine.
Yeah,
There's
all
I actually heard about this small business that got broken into. That like a lot of small businesses aren't reporting thefts because it's gonna affect their what is it, their deductibles and stuff, or like or their insurance company might even drop them because of so many thefts.
that's fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. And so like yeah, like this, the kind of like the hysteria that was that was stirred up because because people are calling for like police reform, or like completely like defunding the police, like this is in like these southbound crime DAs. This is the effect, like people who could lose their businesses because of so many thefts, not merely because of the theft themselves, but the effect that it has, affecting their ability to be insured.
Yeah, and when I look at like Leo, it's just kind of like, man, how sad is this? Like he didn't deserve what he got. Like it was just you have one guy who uh fakes and pretends like he's your friend, and he doesn't. I think Chuck maybe at the end like starts to care of like, fuck, this guy is gonna die on me, but I think he feels a little bit responsible. But in reality, it's like he was willing to let that guy suffer as long as possible for the story.
Mm.
And that's just like that's what a lot of these news stories happen. Like, they're willing to let people suffer for these stories, like for what? To sell more newspapers, to sell more ad space on CNN, or to get the likes and the retweets and whatever on Twitter or Instagram. It's really horrible. I mean, hell, I mean, like even like people on that are seeing bad things happen, their first instinct isn't to intervene and like stop evil from happening. It's like, oh, let me get this on video so I can put it up on my social media account.
Right. Yeah. There was that story. In New York, these three women who destroyed this, like literally destroyed this business over a charge of $1.75 for extra sauce.
Yeah,
And it's like and like yeah, the employee recorded the destruction too, but if you see in the recording from the employee, you see all these other people who are just who are potential customers who are videotaping the destruction, and like
yeah,
and just like why isn't anyone like trying to stop these women? And it's like, and it's over $1.75 for extra sauce, not like the sauce that's supposed to come with like their food, but they ask for extra sauce, and just like
yeah,
the kind of the gall of these women to think that they should receive something extra for nothing. You know, that's really that's really the tragedy, that these women thought that they were entitled to something for nothing.
And the if this movie was made today, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those people would be like on their phones doing selfies at the freaking mountain, with the hashtag Leo Minoso fund. We're here for hashtag we're here for Leo, and it's like putting up like the dumb like little like there'd probably be like some sort of little moniker or
Yeah, the little
a
framing
flag.
thing for your profile picture on Facebook. It's like, oh, we stand
Yeah,
with Leo or whatever.
it's like they don't know who that guy is. They don't give two fucks about that guy. And as soon as like he dies or like the story becomes boring, they're gone.
Right.
And meanwhile, like
When Chuck, you know, gets on the loudspeaker and lets everyone know, it's like, oh, you know, you guys can go home now, you know, because he's dead. Boom, not even like, I mean, other than like that first woman and the family that came, like that woman was like the only one that cried over Leo's death. But everyone else, like as soon as like Chuck said like, all right, you can go home now, he's dead. Boom, it was like, kind of like the old Roadrunner cartoons where he takes off and there's like nothing but like a cloud silhouette.
smoke.
Yeah,
Yeah, like they're gone. It's like,
they're gone.
damn, that that's our society.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean,
That
like,
that
that's why that meme of, the NPC, surrounded by the LGBT flag and the transgender flag and, the Ukraine flag and, whatever, and it says like I support the current thing. There's a reason why that meme exists.
yeah.
It's like all those people that supposedly came for Leo Minosa, they were just the NPCs, like, saying like, I support the current thing.
Yeah, and I think that's also I think that should scare people a little bit more. Is like because we kind of think that this is a new thing, but clearly it's not. It happened in this. This movie is speaking to like what was going on in the day. In 1951,
Mm-hmm.
it was happening then. So it's not a new thing. And that I think that's a little scary to a lot of people, and that's why what makes Ace in the Hole such a tough movie to deal with.
Mm.
Like I said, we all want to think about good old Uncle Walt and Edward Murrows and the like, but
Dan
they
Rather.
yeah. Oh,
Fuck that guy.
God. He still has a platform too, which drives me fucking crazy. Like, and people take him seriously. It's like he's one of the most notorious liars and plagiarists, in at least when it comes to the news. Maybe not in what's his face from NBC definitely tried to take his
Oh,
crown.
Brian Williams.
Yeah, Brian Williams. He definitely tried to take his crown, but like it's these guys were not good. They were not
Yeah,
your friends.
they were not unbiased. They. I mean, they didn't try and not propagandize to you.
Yeah, they certainly played the part much better than they do today. Yeah, I'll give them that.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
for sure.
like
Like when you see old like archive like footage of like Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather or whatever, like you still like he's like, oh man, what happened to them? But it's like no, they were always like that.
and
It's like they were
they'll
always
say
like
like,
that.
oh
They just hit it better. Yeah, now you see
yeah,
like what's his face, Jim Acosta or Potato, Brian Stelter, and it's like it's so obvious. It's like
super straight Brian Stelter.
yeah, super straight, not non-homosexual Brian Stelter.
I laugh about that. And yeah, like I said, this movie, I love this movie so much, but it breaks my heart every time I watch it, just because of how how broken it shows the world to be.
Mhm.
Not only from uh, the Chuck Tatums of the world, but like really just the public in general, and how awful everybody is,
Mhm.
that they don't care about this person that's suffering for real, and they just want to be a part of their suffering. And
Right. Well, yeah, they want to
you know
be
they,
part of the suffering without suffering themselves.
exactly, they want to profit off of another person's suffering.
Mhm.
And that's just how our world works. For whatever reason, that is that's the dirty that's the dirty thing that happens in our country. I don't know if it's a 20th century. Started in the 20th century. uh I can't think of like it happening back in like the 18th or the 19th and 18th century,
Mhm.
but it's definitely been happening throughout the 20th and into the 21st century. Um, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, unless like we completely dismantle like the press and just start over. And not to say that we couldn't maybe reform the press, but the corruption has like gone on for so long, and now it's like so like embedded in the media that it almost in my opinion it almost be better just to like tear it down and start over.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely respect some of like the independent guys that are trying to make a difference,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those things where it's like, is it just too late at this point? And yeah, like you said, just kind of rip the whole thing down and start over, like um, and to not you know, the idea of the 24-hour news cycle, like there's not that much news happen. Yeah, like we live in a bigger world than we did maybe 50, 60 years ago. But there's no such thing as a 24. There's not always news happening.
Right. I
It's
mean, technically yes, but do I need to know about a tsunami in like Jakarta,
no,
Indonesia? No, it doesn't affect me here.
and I'm sorry that that happened over there, but honestly, I don't care. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah,
not
and it
important. Like,
shouldn't be like the top story going on for like 3 days. Like, oh, like tsunami in Jakarta, and it's like it's like, okay, like a tsunami happened. This, here's the current, what's currently destroyed. This is how many people are missing. Okay, and then maybe like kind of update me like every like couple of days.
but you know who needs to hear about that stuff? Fucking people in Jakarta.
There you go.
That's where that,
Yes.
or the surrounding areas, like where like where maybe like the hurricane or whatever didn't, or the tsunami didn't affect them, but it's like
Hmm.
it's the right, but it's next door.
Right.
That's those people that need to know about that.
Right. It's like this brush fire that happened here. Where I live. It's like, do you think someone in Greece gives a fuck that a brush fire happened here? No.
No, and nor should they.
No, exactly. Nor should they.
It's like, hell, I don't even think that people in New York should give a shit about what this little brush fire in Chatsworth.
Yeah. Yeah. There you
Like,
go.
why should someone in New York City give a shit about like a little brush fire in Chatsworth? They shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where like the local news is important, like and maybe that should be what's more important instead of this stupid national news cycle. Like where it's this manufactured bullshit. 24-hour news. It's how many times can we say the same story differently so that you keep tuning in? At seven
Right.
o'clock. It's like, oh, I'm so like, I hate it so much.
Yeah. What was it like? I remember back in the day. What is it? Stephen Crowder. He watched CNN for like literally 24 hours, and
I, it, it broke him.
it broke him.
I You can see like where he's like, that was that is mental torture for somebody.
Exactly, because
Like,
like and it's also like the little tricks that they do. When they do like the flash of like breaking, and then but they just repeating information that they broke like a couple hours before.
I get, I encourage people because I actually did listen to that whole stream. Like, it took me a few days,
Mm-hmm.
but I urge people, it's been a couple years now, but go and watch that stream. And he does like, he lets you in on like exactly what their tactics are.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's that idea of like where they're oh, it's breaking, it's super important, like it's happening right now. It's like you just said this 5 minutes ago or like an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's nothing new here.
Exactly. No new information being presented. No update
It should
to
be.
no update to the facts. Nothing. It's just a tactic. It's just a ploy to make people think like that there is like some new information.
This should be like where like it's at like a quarterly aspect, where it's like, or like you break it up into thirds. Like there's a morning, there's an afternoon, and there's evening news. That's it, and that's what it was for decades. And even then, it was a lot of bullshit. But at least then, it's not like 24 hours, day after day after day of just where they're almost like it's like Nightcrawler, where they're fucking making, they're not making up the news, but they are definitely like
Manipulating it.
manufacturing the news to it, like just like to make it as sensational as possible, like where they're staging, where Jake Gyllenhaal's character is fucking staging scenes to
Mm.
make it look better.
Right.
That's how the news feels like. And that's what Ace in the Hole's doing. It's staging news to make it seem more sensational, to make
Mm.
it to sell papers.
Right.
That's
Yeah, like the write up that he did on the wife. It's like she was like this ungrateful bitch that like literally her husband was trapped under a mountain, and she was like ready to book it. She saw that as her chance. But but then Chuck comes along and writes her up like this, concerned wife, just like you know workers have to like keep her from like trying to get down into the mine to be by her husband's side.
if anything, they had to keep her like in fucking town.
I know, yeah. They had to do everything they could to keep her, here.
Yeah, and that's it's this movie makes you feel so dirty,
Mm.
but like you can't turn away because it's giving you reality in a very like raw way, and you have to deal with it. And I think that's exactly what Billy Wilder was going for.
Mm. Good job, Billy.
Now this is not like one of those films I'm like kind of like, oh man, I gotta watch Ace in the Hole tonight. Like it's not, this is not like Predator or fucking White Chicks. It's not like, oh man, I want to watch that again. That was so much fun. Ace in the Hole is not a fun movie. It's really
Yeah.
not. But it's one of those films that I think everyone should see, and it should be, maybe every couple of years you check back in on Ace in the Hole,
Yeah,
and
just like, yeah, does this movie still ring true?
yeah, and I hope there's a day like where we look back and like we were watching Ace in the Hole. It's like, man, I'm so glad that era is over.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that there comes a day where that's true. Maybe not in our lifetime, Andy, but maybe one day.
Mm.
This would be like a nice, kind of like look to the past. Like, man, those guys were so. What were they thinking?
Right. Yeah, this could be. Yeah, I hope one day that this will be a nice historical piece that depicted a time that that is no longer.
Yeah, because this movie still feels so relevant. Like where it's not the past, it's today.
Yeah, it's the present. It's still the present.
Yeah. But that's all I have to say about Ace in the Hole. I'm kind of glad we finally got to like really take a look at this film and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hope I don't have to watch this movie again for a couple of years. Um, but why don't we give our
Yeah, let's give
ratings?
it ratings and wrap it up.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first because this was my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't do anything but give it this a 5-star rating just because not only is it was it true back then, it's true today. Uh, Kirk Douglas, he fucking sealed the show, man. He is one of the best. Him and Robert Mitchum to me are the greatest bad guys of all time. I mean, they're the characters they play are such assholes that, but you
Mm,
can't turn away from their performance because it's so powerful.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, this movie it breaks my heart every time I watch it, just because I want there to be a time where this is not reality.
Mm,
Um, and I think this, to me, I think if people watch this today, I think it breaks down the fantasy that there was like, man, I want to get back to the time when there was real journalism. There was never real
right. Yeah,
journalism.
there's never real
This,
journalism. Hell,
um,
I would dare even argue that even like the time of like the founding of America there or the United States, there wasn't real journalism.
there was rag pieces back then too.
Yeah,
It
but
wasn't as corruptible
right, yeah,
as it is today. But yeah, like I want, yeah, I think this breaks down the fantasy that there's like, oh, we need to go back to a time of real journalism. It's like there was never that time. If anything, it just keeps getting worse.
indeed.
Um, and movies like this one, and Network, and Nightcrawler, and Sweet Smell of Success, it's Scandal. It's just all these movies just break that fantasy.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. This is a five for me as well. Impeccably acted. Great. Relevant story even for today. Um, again, not one of those movies that like you watch every weekend or whatever, but definitely a movie that you should watch at least once. And it's gonna stick with you. I promise you that.
I,
Because
I can't. This movie will.
after I watched it with you the first time, I was like, yeah, this movie stuck with me. Like, I'm like
I
every
can't.
time I watch the news, I'm like constantly thinking about this movie.
It's just like, oh fuck, this is, I look at stuff and it's like, fuck, this is like Ace in the Hole. It always is it's in my brain, it's in my heart. It's in my soul almost. That's how powerful this movie is. It will never leave me. And that's kind of scares the hell out of me a little bit. you know what I'm saying? Um, and yeah, it's not a movie I'm gonna revisit like every weekend. It's like, fuck, I gotta watch Ace in the Hole again. But it's definitely a movie I keep revisiting. Maybe a couple times a year, just to remind me. Uh, and if you're a cinephile, if you're a fan of Billy Wilder, get buy Ace in the Hole. And I think the best version is the Criterion version. You can kind of pick it up right now. It's not that much. It's only about $15 for the Blu-ray. Um, and yeah, you get some really great interviews and extras on on the Blu-ray. Plus, like, you get like this, like I said, the cool little insert that they kind of the Albuquerque Sun Bulletin, and like all these like cool articles about the movie. So yeah, I would get the Criterion Blu-ray and have some fun, and maybe watch our review, and then go watch it yourself, and just think about it. Just stew on the darkness and the how this film is. It just sticks with you like glue.
All right, folks, that's our review for Ace in the Hole. Both Robert and I give this a five. Definitely a movie you must watch. Um, and again, I promise you, it will stick with you forever. And it'll completely change the way you perceive media,
Oh, dude, yeah,
particularly news media.
yeah.
And I promise you, it only be for the better. All right. Yeah, that'll do it for this stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I know Rob had a good time. I had a good time.
Tuesday is my favorite day of the week, dude, just because I get to spend it with you. We get to talk about some fun, some not so fun stuff and some fun stuff. And honestly, like I think when we talk about news topics, it just I don't know. I feel even though we might like get upset and kind of feel down about things, I do feel better after talking to you about it and talking to everyone about it.
Yeah, we have achieved catharsis.
Exactly.
Anyways, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circular Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Updown. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.